If you operate in the global medical device sector, you know that regulatory frameworks, well, they rarely stand still.
Hmm.
But when a major economic hub like Hong Kong decides to move from a purely voluntary compliance system to a fully mandatory one, that's not just an update, that's a foundational shift.
It really is. It impacts every manufacturer looking to access that whole Asia-Pacific market.
Welcome to DDReg Knowledge Capsule.
Our mission today is to give you a clear roadmap through this regulatory seismic event. We are unpacking the imminent transition away from the existing voluntary system, the Medical Device Administrative Control System, or MDSCS,
Right, the MDS.
and into a new mandatory registration framework that is, it's going to completely redefine compliance in the region.
This is a deep dive into that regulatory overhaul. Our sources confirm this entire process is driven by, twin goals: strengthening patient safety and achieving alignment with mature global regulatory frameworks.
Like the ones in the EU, Singapore, Australia.
Exactly. The stakes are high because market access is on the line. Our goal here is to pull out the exact nuggets of knowledge you need to begin preparing your strategies and your technical documentation today.
We're essentially giving you a shortcut to understanding the required legal and technical heavy lifting before that inevitable submission bottleneck hits.
Okay, so let's start with a bit of history. For anyone who hasn't been steeped in Hong Kong compliance, what exactly was MDAS? And if it was voluntary, why did it exist in the first place?
Well, MDACS was really a product of its time. It launched as a foundational voluntary listing mechanism. It was designed to introduce some structured oversight into what was a traditionally very open market.
A first step, sort of.
Useful first step, exactly.
Yeah.
It allowed manufacturers to list their devices and signal to the public and to healthcare providers that they complied with international standards.
So you could just point to your FDA approval or CE mark?
Yes, that was a big part of it. Reference country approval was key.
Okay, so it allowed Hong Kong to maintain its open market feel while still, giving a nod to quality control. But why did a system that worked for 2 decades suddenly fall short?
The failure wasn't sudden. It was, I'd say, cumulative. 2 main forces really drove the change. First, just the increasing complexity of medical tech today.
You mean like AI diagnostics, connected implants, that kind of thing?
Precisely. That complexity makes the old model of simple voluntary self-attestation just inadequate for ensuring public safety and long-term vigilance.
And the second force?
That's the big one. A universal global push toward regulatory harmonization. Hong Kong realized that to remain a trusted medical hub, its standards needed to match its international peers.
And that means you can't be voluntary.
You just can't. It requires mandatory legal controls, not voluntary declarations.
That sounds like a powerful driver. And when you introduce mandatory controls, you need a dedicated organization to enforce them. So we're not just updating old rules, we're creating a whole new infrastructure.
It's exactly right. The new mandatory framework will be implemented and fully managed by the Center for Medical Products Regulation, or CMPR.
CMPR, okay.
This is a critical development. While the specific legislative timeline is still being finalized, the CMPR is expected to become fully operational by 2026. This body is going to be the central gatekeeper, overseeing everything from registration to post-market vigilance and enforcement.
That centralization of power is a really clear signal, isn't it?
It's a huge signal of the territory's commitment to stringent regulation.
So that sets the stage for the new referee. Now, let's get into the core practical differences. If a manufacturer is currently operating under MDACS, what are the most immediate changes they will see?
Well, the transition fundamentally shifts the legal risks. The single most crucial distinction is the legal basis. We're moving from MDACS being a voluntary administrative mechanism
To a what?
to a statutory legal requirement. Compliance is no longer optional. It becomes mandatory law with, real legal penalties for non-adherence.
And the institutional shift means dealing with an entirely new entity.
Correct. The oversight authority shifts completely. Manufacturers used to interact with the Department of Health or the MDCO. Now, all compliance, all submissions, all post-market communications will be channeled through the CMPR.
I think the biggest resource investment for manufacturers, though, is going to be in documentation. Under the old system, a lot of companies could just rely on having an approval from, say, Germany or the US, and that was enough. Is that era definitively over?
That era is absolutely concluding. Under MDACS, the evidence requirement was relatively light. Basic documentation plus proof of approval from a recognized reference country.
And now?
The mandatory system demands comprehensive technical documentation and detailed clinical evidence. The full technical file, in line with modern international standards like IMDRF guidelines.
So just pointing to a CE certificate isn't going to cut it anymore.
No, not at all. You have to present the underlying data that justified that certificate, and it has to be locally adapted where necessary.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it means the entire life cycle of the device is now legally captured.
It is. Post-market obligations shift dramatically. Where MDACS had, limited vigilance requirements, the new framework mandates structured vigilance procedures, defined recall processes, and active post-market surveillance.
VMS, right.
It ensures end-to-end accountability.
Which brings us to the crucial consequence for every company currently supplying the market. The bottom line is that once this new law takes effect, devices that are not successfully registered with the CMPR may no longer be legally supplied, imported, or sold in Hong Kong. That deadline is absolute.
And failing to meet it means immediate market lockout.
Here's where it gets really interesting for strategy and resources. For manufacturers currently listed under MDACS, what's the first strategic implication they need to tackle?
It's a reassessment of their entire product portfolio and market strategy. Right away, companies have to prioritize devices, focusing first on high-risk devices, typically classes 2, 3, and 4.
Why the rush to prioritize?
Because mandatory registration requires significant data compilation, and the time to get approval under the CMPR will be much, much longer than the old voluntary listing. Prioritizing is essential to ensure your critical devices maintain market continuity.
And speaking of data, let's dive deeper into documentation. What exactly does comprehensive technical documentation mean in practice? What are the key documents?
It means proving safety and performance through hard data, not just an administrative reference. The new framework demands complete technical files. These must include robust risk management documentation.
And that's where the specific standards come in, right?
Yes, specifically following standards like ISO 13971 detailed design dossiers and up-to-date clinical evaluation reports, or CERs.
What's a common pitfall there with the clinical data?
A major gap we often see is manufacturers relying on clinical data from older devices or from, non-similar populations. The CMPR will require evidence that is relevant and current.
That focus on ISO 13971 is really key, isn't it? It signifies a shift from just documenting what you did to actively demonstrating a formal, continuous risk management process.
Absolutely. ISO 13971 is the bedrock of modern medical device safety. If a manufacturer's risk management file isn't current, or if it doesn't clearly articulate the benefit-risk ratio for the Hong Kong context specifically, they will face significant pushback.
So it's not a box-ticking exercise?
Not at all. It's a detailed technical audit.
Okay, now let's turn to the local responsible person, the LRP. Their role seems to be elevated from just an administrative contact to someone carrying serious legal risk.
This is perhaps the most profound change. The LRP's role is massively expanded. They're being transformed into a legally accountable entity.
So what does that mean? What are they legally accountable for?
They will become directly responsible for product safety, managing adverse event reporting, and coordinating field safety corrective actions, FSEAs, within the jurisdiction.
So if a major product recall is triggered, say, due to a device failure that harms a patient, what does this new legal accountability mean for the LRP?
It means potential liability exposure, where, frankly, none existed before. Under MDACS, the consequences were administrative. Under the CMPR, failure to report adverse events promptly could lead to statutory penalties, fines, or even withdrawal of the device license.
Wow. So manufacturers have to completely rethink those relationships.
They must. They need to immediately review and revise their contracts with LRPs to reflect these extended legally binding duties.
So the days of using a purely administrative firm as your LRP are likely over. You need a partner with genuine regulatory teeth.
Precisely. And those legal duties bring us to the fourth implication: stricter post-market surveillance. Companies need to implement robust PMS systems now.
And that's more than just passive tracking.
Oh, much more. It requires proactive mechanisms for monitoring device performance, collecting safety data specific to the Hong Kong population, and being ready to act instantly when a safety issue arises.
This sounds like a lot of heavy lifting, especially with a deadline looming. To help our listeners, what are, say, the 5 key practical steps manufacturers should be taking right now to prepare?
Okay, the prep checklist starts with a full inventory. Step 1. Audit existing MDACS listings. You need to map every device currently listed to determine its risk class and identify which ones need to move to the new system.
That gives you the scope of the project.
It reveals the size of the undertaking. Step 2 is about building that foundation we just discussed. Develop comprehensive technical files. Focus specifically on preparing or updating documentation related to risk management, as mandated by ISO 13971.
Good rule of thumb.
If your tech doc is older than 5 years, assume it needs a significant upgrade.
And step 3 addresses that LRP relationship.
Right. Strengthen LRP agreements. Clearly define and formalize their exact responsibilities for submissions, vigilance, and communication with the CMPR.
Okay, what's 4?
Step 4 is the systemic side of compliance. Implement robust PMS and vigilance systems. You need documented mechanisms for tracking adverse events and field safety corrective actions. Don't just wait for reports to land on your desk.
And the final step is crucial in any environment where regulations are still being finalized.
Absolutely. Stay updated on CMPR announcements. The specific procedural details, timelines, fee schedules, they're still being defined. Monitoring official guidance is non-negotiable to avoid being caught off guard.
We have to acknowledge reality here. This transition is not going to be easy. Manufacturers are going to hit bottlenecks. What are the common challenges we should prepare for?
There are 3 major roadblocks. First is the initial regulatory uncertainty. While the legislation's intent is clear, the procedural specifics, how fast they'll process applications, the exact requirements for local clinical data are still being ironed out.
Which makes long-term planning difficult.
Very. And the second challenge is an internal one for many organizations: documentation gaps. This is endemic, especially for devices that have been on the market for years.
Because they just never had to build the full file for MDACS.
Exactly. They relied on the voluntary listing and didn't maintain a full, current technical file. Remediation of these older files is a huge undertaking.
And the third challenge, it seems, is just the clock ticking, people waiting until the last minute.
It's a dual responsibility.
Right.
Manufacturers have to recognize the complexity. These are full registration dossiers, not simple forms. But the CMPR is also aware of the potential for an application overload.
A huge surge in submissions.
Right. And once the transition period officially begins, that sheer volume of submissions will likely lead to significant delays in approval processing. Early submission is the only mitigation strategy available to maintain continuous market access.
We focused heavily on the regulatory workload, which is significant, but let's zoom out. What does this massive shift actually mean for the broader healthcare ecosystem and the patients in Hong Kong? What's the ultimate payoff?
The payoff is a stronger public health infrastructure and enhanced market trust. This shift leads directly to stronger patient protection, better quality oversight, and successful international alignment.
It signals that Hong Kong's regulatory baseline is now on par with places like Singapore or Australia.
That's right. And that alignment seems to be key for attracting global innovation. It acts as a necessary filter, weeding out substandard products.
So no more counterfeit or low-quality devices slipping through?
Well, it will significantly reduce their entry into Hong Kong. By demanding comprehensive technical files and ensuring robust post-market vigilance, the CMPR fundamentally enhances confidence in the territory's entire healthcare supply chain.
And for doctors and nurses on the ground?
Healthcare professionals will have a much higher assurance regarding the safety and traceability of the devices they use.
So the ultimate impact is clear. The new CMPR-led model will solidify Hong Kong's reputation. It elevates its position not just as a consumer of medical devices, but as a trusted, high-standard regulatory hub in the entire Asia-Pacific region.
It raises the compliance baseline for everyone hoping to operate there, which, ultimately benefits the patient above all else.
This transition from the voluntary MDACS listing to mandatory registration marks a critical turning point for the region's medical device market. The core takeaway is clear. Early strategic action, strengthening your technical documentation, and solidifying the accountability of your local responsible person will provide a significant competitive advantage.
And this leads us to a final thought for you to reflect on. Since the CMPR model is explicitly designed to align with mature, internationally recognized frameworks, how might Hong Kong's newly stringent regulatory requirements influence device approval standards in other neighboring jurisdictions across Asia-Pacific?
A domino effect.
It could be. If manufacturers are now creating IMDRF-compliant technical files for Hong Kong, those files might just set a new de facto standard, potentially accelerating similar regulatory transitions elsewhere in the region. This move could indeed spark a powerful regional domino effect.
That ripple effect of compliance is often the most significant outcome. We've given you the tools to tackle Hong Kong. Now you're equipped to look ahead at what might come next across the rest of the region.